In one of the biggest, most beautiful mansions in Jumbo City, loud voices filled the living room. Mr. Ford, a rich and powerful man, was shouting at his only son, Jamari. His face was red with anger, and he waved his walking stick as he spoke. "You are a useless man for a son," Mr. Ford yelled. "What did I even do to God to deserve someone like you? You can't do anything right. All you do is waste my money. The day I stop your allowance, you'll learn the hard way." Jamari, just as angry, stepped forward. "Look at this old man. Are you threatening me?" he snapped. "I didn't ask for a father like you either. You talk like I won't hit you. But I will. Then I'll go and buy a cow to celebrate." Mr. Ford pointed his stick at him and shouted, "A cow with whose money? Try it, and you'll regret the day you were born." Shafi, Jamari's stepmother, quickly stood between them. Her hands were shaking as she held them apart. "Enough. Both of you stop this madness," she cried. "Jamari, go home. Mr. Ford, please go upstairs and cool off." Mr. Ford grumbled but slowly climbed the stairs, still pointing his stick at Jamari. "Talk to your son," he said before disappearing into his room. Jamari turned to Shafi, his voice softer but full of hurt. "Mom, do you see how he treats me? Like I'm a little boy. I'm a grown man." Shafi gently touched his shoulder. "I know, son, but go home for now. When both of you are calm, you can talk again." Jamari nodded slowly, his eyes still burning with pain. The house fell quiet, but the anger still hung in the air like smoke. A few years ago, Mr. Ford and Jamari were not like this at all. They were very close. They used to sit in the same room, breathe the same air, laugh at silly jokes, and talk for hours like best friends. Mr. Ford was proud of his son, and Jamari loved his father so much. But everything changed after Jamari's real mother died. It was like a dark cloud came over their lives. They stopped laughing. They stopped talking. The love between them started to fade, and all that was left was pain, anger, and silence. Now, it feels like they can't even stand to look at each other, like they've become strangers who secretly hate each other but don't know how to say it. The house is still big and beautiful, but inside, everything feels broken. After leaving the mansion that evening, Jamari was still very angry and hurt. He didn't want to think about the fight with his dad, so he went to a fancy club in the city. Loud music, flashing lights, and bottles of alcohol surrounded him as he drank and drank until he couldn't think straight. He tried to flirt with a group of beautiful ladies and begged them to come home with him, but when they found out his credit card didn't have enough money, they laughed at him and walked away. Embarrassed and angry, Jamari shouted at them in the club parking lot, but they didn't care. He got into his car, still drunk, and sped off into the night. But he couldn't see clearly, and his hands were shaky. Before he knew it, boom, he crashed his car straight into a tree. A few people rushed to help, and someone called Jamari's best friend. His friend arrived quickly, worried and breathing hard. He took Jamari to the hospital, where the doctors treated him for a cut on his head and a sprained arm. But when it was time to pay, Jamari's card didn't work. His father had frozen his accounts and stopped his allowance. Jamari only had one small account left with a little money in it. Feeling ashamed, he quietly transferred all the money to a mechanic to go fix the car. His best friend paid the hospital bill without saying a word, just patting Jamari's back and helping him into a taxi. As they drove home, Jamari stared out of the window, broken and silent. Everything in his life felt like it was falling apart. Jamari lived in a big, beautiful house in the city. It wasn't as massive as his father's mansion, but it still had shiny marble floors, golden curtains, and expensive furniture that made it look like a palace. In that house lived an old woman named Miss Ella. She was more than just a house manager. She was like a mother to Jamari. She helped him with everything: cooking, cleaning, and taking care of him when he messed up. Jamari didn't work or do anything serious with his life. He just spent money, brought different girls home, and always got in trouble when he drank too much. But Miss Ella never gave up on him. Even when he was reckless, she looked at him with eyes full of love and kindness. The night Jamari came home after the accident, Miss Ella saw him limping and quickly rushed to help. She gently held his arm and led him to his room, helped him change his clothes, and made him hot pepper soup so he could eat before taking his medicine. For 2 full weeks, Miss Ella cared for him like a baby. She cleaned his wounds, gave him his medicine, and made sure he ate 3 times a day. Even though Jamari had no money left, because his father had cut him off, Miss Ella used her own savings to buy everything: drugs, food, even groceries for the house. She didn't complain, and she didn't ask for anything in return. She just wanted him to feel better. And even though Jamari didn't say it out loud, deep down in his heart, he knew Miss Ella was the only one who truly cared about him. After Jamari got better, he dressed up and went to visit his father, Mr. Ford. He wanted to talk to him and ask for money so he could pay back Miss Ella and give her the salary she deserved. But no matter how many words Jamari used, his father didn't agree. Mr. Ford looked at him and said firmly, "If you want to see my money again, you must work for it. I will pay you a salary, and from there, you can take care of your bills and your workers." Jamari's eyes filled with panic. "But Dad, I'll starve. I don't even have food in the house. How will I survive?" he cried. Mr. Ford didn't even blink. He just stood up and said, "That's why I said you need to work. See you in the office on Monday." And with that, he walked away, leaving Jamari feeling crushed. Jamari turned to Miss Shaffy, his stepmother, who had been standing close by. "Mom, please talk to him. Does he want me to die?" he asked, almost in tears. Miss Shaffy walked to the couch and gently pulled him to sit next to her. "I'll try to talk to him," she said softly. "But you know how your father is. Maybe you should try doing what he asked." She held his hand and looked into his eyes. "Son, I truly believe your father loves you. He is just trying to teach you how to be a strong and responsible man. He's getting old, and you are his only child. One day, you will take over everything he built, the whole company. But to be the CEO of a big company, you must learn how to work hard. He wants to prepare you for that." Her voice was calm, but full of love and hope. Jamari sat quietly, thinking deeply for the first time in a long while. That Monday morning, Jamari woke up early, took a long shower, dressed up in his best shirt, and left the house to go work at his father's company. It was his first time doing anything serious like this, so he felt nervous and unsure. When Mr. Ford saw him walk into the office, he was shocked, but deep inside, he was also proud. He didn't say much, just nodded and told Jamari to follow him. Everything felt strange to Jamari, the busy office, the people moving fast, and all the files. He hadn't done anything like this before, and it made him feel small and confused. Later that day, they had a big office meeting. Everyone sat around a long, shiny glass table with notepads and laptops. Jamari sat quietly, scrolling on his phone while others talked. Mr. Ford didn't like that at all. He called out Jamari and asked him to say something. At first, Jamari was scared, but then he gave an idea. He said the company should offer a discount only for online shoppers, and the money should stay in the company to help it grow. Everyone in the room turned to look at him. There was a moment of silence, and then they clapped. They liked his idea, and Mr. Ford gave him a small smile. For the first time, Jamari felt like he had done something right. That evening, when Jamari came back from work, he was very tired. His eyes were heavy, and his body felt weak. But as soon as he walked into the house, he noticed Miss Ella didn't look okay. She looked very sick and tried to talk to him. "Sir, please, I need a little money to go for a checkup," she said softly. But Jamari didn't even look at her. He just brushed her off like she was disturbing him and walked straight upstairs to his room. Miss Ella quietly finished what she could and left. She didn't live in the house. She only came during the day to clean, cook, and take care of Jamari. Then she went back to her own home in the evening. The next morning, Miss Ella came to work again, looking worse. Her hands were weak, and her face was pale. She came only to ask for time off and a little help to go to the hospital. But Jamari had already left. When he returned home that evening, the house was messy, plates in the sink, the floor dusty, and a full water bucket left in the middle of the living room. "What is this? What's going on here?" he shouted. Miss Ella, holding her side and breathing slowly, said, "I'm very sick, sir. I need surgery and medicine, but I don't have money. I tried to tell you yesterday." Jamari's face changed. He felt guilty. He reached into his pocket and gave her the little money he had left. "This is all I have right now, but I'll find more soon. Please go get help," he said. "Thank you, sir." Miss Ella smiled weakly. "My daughter will come tomorrow to work in my place while I rest and get better." And just like that, she slowly walked away. The next morning, Jamari dressed up for work and walked downstairs. As he got closer to the kitchen, he heard some movement. He quickly rushed in to check what was happening. There, he saw a young girl he didn't know. "Who the hell are you? And what are you doing in my kitchen?" "In my house?" Jamari asked angrily. The girl stood still, holding a tray, and said politely, "I'm Moji, sir." Jamari raised his eyebrows and looked at her with surprise. "What? What kind of name is that? He said, now laughing. Sir. Moji replied, confused. I mean, who names their child Moji? Are you an emoji or what? So your parents had a naming ceremony and decided to call you Moji? That's just foolish, Jamari said, shaking his head and laughing. Moji looked hurt but stood strong. No disrespect, sir, but I actually love my name. And if you don't like it, that's not my problem, she said bravely. Jamari's face changed, and he snapped. Who do you think you're talking to, young lady? Moji quickly apologized. I'm sorry, sir. Jamari pointed at her again. You better be. Now, what are you doing here? Moji straightened up and replied. My mom works for you, and she's very sick right now. So I'll be taking care of her work until she gets better. Jamari narrowed his eyes. Who? Ella, he asked. Yes, Miss Ella, Moji said softly. Jamari stood there, not knowing what to say next, still shocked by the girl's courage. Jamari looked at Moji with a bored face and said, Whatever. I hope your mother taught you how I like my food. Then he turned and walked out of the kitchen. Moji called out, Excuse me, sir, and quickly followed him. There is no food in the kitchen. No rice, no onions, nothing. We need to buy food and groceries, she said. Jamari stopped and looked at her like she was annoying. Are you serious right now? I'm late for work and you're asking me stupid questions, he shouted. Just make sure I find food when I come back, he said, slamming the door as he left. Moji stood there with her mouth open, shocked. What? What kind of man is this? Does he think food falls from the sky like manna? She said, talking to herself, very confused and angry. Moji walked back into the kitchen and picked up her phone. She called her mom. Mom, what do you mean you've been using your money to buy food for him? He is so rude and ungrateful. What am I supposed to do? I can't stay here, Moji said, almost crying. Her mom, Miss Ella, spoke gently. Moji dear, he owes me a lot of money. If you leave now, I may never get it back. And I need that job. When I get better, I want to go back to work. Please, just help me for now. You know how hard life is. Moji sighed deeply. Okay, Mom, I'll try my best, she said quietly, still feeling sad and angry, but knowing she had to help her mom. That evening, when Jamari got home from work, he was tired. Moji had already made dinner. He went upstairs, took a shower, and came down to eat. He sat at the dining table while Moji quietly served him. As she turned to leave with the tray in her hands, Jamari spoke behind her. Wait there. Moji froze. What is this? Jamari asked as he looked at the food. This is not like your mom's food, but you tried. It is edible. He began to eat while Moji stood silently. She muttered under her breath, This guy, the audacity. Jamari stopped chewing and looked up. What? Did you say something? Or do you want to? Moji quickly replied, No sir, nothing at all. He waved her off, and she left for the day, holding in all her anger. It had now been 1 whole week since Jamari started going to work. Mr. Ford was happy and thought his son was changing into a better man. But the truth was different. Jamari was only pretending to be serious so he could get his big allowance back. He was broke and hated living without money. He missed spending cash, going to wild parties, and getting drunk. Jamari didn't enjoy working. He found it hard, boring, and very stressful. He just wanted his easy life back. That weekend, Jamari went to see his dad. He sat down on the soft couch and looked at him. Dad, I'm really struggling, Jamari said. I've been trying. I've been going to work every day. But right now, I don't even have money to take care of myself. Please help me just a little until I start getting my salary. His eyes looked tired and sad. He was hoping his father would understand. Mr. Ford looked at him with a calm face. Son, I won't lie. You've done well for 1 week. But that's not enough. You need to earn my trust, he said. This is not a punishment. I just want you to grow up and be a man. One day, you'll thank me for this. Then Mr. Ford stood up and walked away. Jamari sat there shocked. He couldn't believe what he just heard. Is he serious? I just told him I'm starving. Did he even hear me? Jamari thought to himself, his heart feeling heavy. Jamari walked into the house with a heavy heart. He still couldn't believe his dad didn't care that he was suffering. How can he be so cold? He whispered to himself. As he sat on the couch lost in thought, he called out, Moji. She came in quickly, wiping her hands on her apron, not sure why he was calling her. Jamari sat up and asked, What do you think about me? Moji blinked. Sir, she said, surprised. Tell me what you see when you look at me. My dad thinks I'm arrogant and useless. Can you believe that? Jamari said with a half-laugh. Moji stood still, scared. She didn't want to say the wrong thing. Come on, he continued. You're beneath me anyway. It's not like what you say matters. I just want to hear it. His voice was calm, but his words were full of pride. Something snapped in Moji. She had been holding back for too long. Oh, so you're shocked people think you're arrogant? Let me tell you why, she said, her voice shaking with anger. You are rude, proud, selfish, and heartless. You treat people badly just because you're rich. You walk around like you're a king, but deep down, you're just a spoiled boy. She shouted without thinking, letting out everything she had bottled up. But as soon as the words left her mouth, her heart dropped. Her face turned pale. She had just yelled at her boss, her mother's boss. Her hands started shaking. What had she done? Jamari looked at her, not saying a word. After a long silence, he finally spoke. Go back and finish what you were doing in the kitchen. Moji walked into the kitchen and leaned on the counter, breathing heavily. This mouth will be the end of me and my whole generation, she whispered to herself. She was angry, scared, and confused. She picked up her phone and quickly called her mother. Mom, I can't do this anymore. He's so annoying. I don't know how to stay quiet when someone steps on me. And today, I just snapped at him. What if next time I say something worse? What if we lose the job tomorrow? She cried. Miss Ella listened calmly. What did he say to you? She asked. Nothing, Mum, Moji replied. He didn't say a single word. He just told me to finish what I was doing like nothing happened. Then you're fine, Miss Ella said softly. He's not someone who keeps things in his heart. If he wanted to fire us, he would have done it already. Just calm down, keep doing your job, and don't talk too much with him. We need this job, Moji. Please be careful and stay out of trouble. He's still your boss, no matter how he behaves. That Monday, Jamari went to work like he always did, but his mind was not there. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't focus. Everything just felt wrong. By 4 p.m., he gave up and left work early. He called his best friend Jay and said, Bro, I need to drink. I'm broke, but I need it bad. Jay agreed and took him out. They went to a big, loud club with flashing lights and music shaking the floor. They drank too much. Way too much. Jamari partied hard, just like the old days. Late that night, he left the club, completely drunk, with a random lady from the club. He stumbled into the house like nothing mattered. The next morning, Jamari woke up very late with a heavy head and painful hangover. When he finally got to work, his father, Mr. Ford, was waiting. He didn't look happy at all. You see, Mr. Ford said in a strong voice, you are slowly going back to your old ways. Just because I own this company does not mean you can come and go as you please. From now on, you will follow the same rules as everyone else. And if you're late again, you're out. You will have to look for another job. Jamari was shocked. Dad, what are you saying? But Mr. Ford stopped him. From now on, I am not Dad. I am Sir. I'm your boss. That's how it should be. The next morning, Jamari woke up feeling very weak. His head was heavy, and his body felt hot. When he tried to get out of bed, he suddenly fell to the floor with a loud crash. His phone broke, and he passed out. Moji, who was in the kitchen, heard the noise and ran to his room quickly. She found him lying on the floor and helped him back into bed. Without wasting time, she called Jay, who then called their family doctor. The doctor came to the house, checked Jamari, and gave him medicine. He told them that Jamari was sick and needed to rest and be watched closely. Jamari had to stay at home the whole week. During that week, Moji took care of him like a mother would take care of her baby. She made sure he ate on time, took all his medicine, and rested well. She didn't complain, not even once. Jamari noticed how kind and caring Moji was. It made him feel something he hadn't felt in a long time, love. Since his mother died, no one had looked after him like that. He couldn't even call the office to explain because his phone was broken, and he didn't think about it. Day by day, Jamari started to feel better. Slowly, he began to sit up, smile more, and even walk around the house. Moji's care helped him heal not just in his body, but in his heart too. One morning, Jamari was sitting at the big, shiny dining table eating his breakfast. The room was quiet, and everything looked perfect, just like always. But suddenly, he heard loud voices outside. Curious and a little worried, he stood up and went to the front door. When he opened it, what he saw shocked him. His father, Mr. Ford, was outside, looking angry and pointing at Jamari's car. Several men were already starting to move the car. Dad! Jamari shouted. What are you doing? Mr. Ford turned to him and said in a deep, serious voice, "You thought I wouldn't notice? You only worked for a few days and already gave up. You're not ready to be a man. I won't let you waste your life being lazy and useless. If you don't change, next time I'll take more than just your car. You'll be out of this house too." Jamari felt his heart sink. "But Dad, I was sick. I didn't choose to stay home. I was just getting better," he tried to explain. His voice was shaky, his eyes wide with disbelief. Mr. Ford didn't even blink. "If you were really sick, you should have called the office. But you didn't, and now you expect me to believe your story? That's not how a real man behaves," he said coldly. Then he turned to the men and shouted, "Come on, boys, let's go." The car started, and they drove off quickly, leaving a cloud of dust behind. Jamari stood there, frozen and speechless. Moji stood beside him, holding her hands to her chest, not knowing what to say. They both watched the car disappear, the silence between them heavy and sad. The moment the car was gone, Jamari stormed back into the house, full of anger. His face was red, and his fists were clenched. Moji followed him, worried. "Sir," she began gently, but Jamari shouted, "You see how he is?" "Sir, you need to calm down," Moji tried again, her voice soft. "Just go and do your job," he snapped, rushing up the stairs without looking back. Moji stood still for a moment, heart heavy, then quietly walked back into the kitchen. The big house suddenly felt cold and quiet. That weekend, Jamari decided to visit his father and talk things out. He really wanted peace, and this time, he hoped his stepmother, Shafi, could help him. They sat at the big dining table, eating dinner together. "My husband," Shafi said, looking at Mr. Ford, "don't you think you're being a little too hard on our son?" Mr. Ford sighed deeply. "I've tried to make him understand. I care for him, but he must grow up and become a real man. He'll have his own family soon and run the company. He must be ready. But Dad, I've been trying. I only missed work because I was really sick and my phone broke. I couldn't call the office," Jamari explained. "That's the truth." Mr. Ford looked at him. "I don't hate you, son. But until I see real change, I won't hand you anything. Start by getting a girlfriend and bring her home. That's the first step to being responsible. Stop bringing random girls home. Then we'll talk." He stood and walked away. Shafi turned to Jamari, holding his hand. "At least now you know what he wants. Start there and see how it goes." Jamari smiled a little. "Thank you, Mum. That means a lot. You're my son," she said softly. "And I love you just as much." After that, Jamari headed home, feeling a little more hopeful than before. That night, Jamari came home to a quiet house. Moji had already cleaned up and gone home. He sat alone in the big living room, his head full of worries. He didn't know where to begin. Almost every girl in the city knew who he was, the guy who didn't care. He was rough with women, never kind, never serious. He made it clear he didn't want love. After being with them, he would just give them money and send them away like they were nothing. But now he had no money. And the one thing his dad asked for, a girlfriend, needed more than just charm. Jamari sighed, feeling lost and confused. He went to bed hoping things would be clearer in the morning. The next morning, Moji was in the kitchen making breakfast when Jamari walked in, looking unsure. "I went to see my dad yesterday," he said softly. Moji looked up and nodded. "Okay," she replied. Jamari continued, "He told me to get a girlfriend, that maybe it will help me become more responsible." Moji's eyes grew wide with surprise. Then she shouted, "Hell no. Never. I can never date you. Not in a million years." Jamari quickly raised his hands. Wait. I don't want to date you either. You are not even close to my type. You're not in my class," he said, rolling his eyes. The kitchen was quiet for a moment, both of them staring at each other, shocked, angry, and confused. Jamari looked at Moji and said, "But wait, what if we do something that helps both of us? I'll pay you to be my girlfriend until my dad gives back my money. It's just acting, so we both win." Moji's eyes grew wide. "What? No way. You haven't even paid us our salaries for months," she shouted. Jamari put his hands up and said calmly, "I know, but that's only because my dad froze all my money. If we play this right, he'll believe I've changed and give it back. Then I'll pay everyone what I owe." Moji paused, thinking hard. She looked unsure. But after some time, she agreed to take the risk. They even talked about a down payment, and Jamari promised to sort it out. They shook hands and sealed the deal. A few days later, Jamari told his family he had a girlfriend and planned to bring her home. But Moji couldn't show up like a housemaid. She had to look rich and classy. Jay, Jamari's friend, gave him some money, and they went shopping. Moji tried on many dresses, one after another, and each one made her look even more stunning. She had smooth chocolate-brown skin, full lips, a round face with soft cheekbones and bright almond-shaped eyes. Her body was shaped like a Coca-Cola bottle, curvy in all the right places. Finally, she stepped out in a royal purple, off-shoulder velvet gown with a slit up the side. It hugged her body perfectly and shimmered in the light. Jamari stared, eyes wide. "Wow," he whispered. Moji smiled shyly. She looked like a queen. The big day finally came. Moji was going to meet Jamari's family for the first time. She wore the elegant dress they had picked, looking classy and beautiful. As they walked into Mr. Ford's huge, rich-looking house, they held hands and acted like a perfect couple. Even though Moji used to work there as a maid, she walked with confidence like a lady from a rich home. What Jamari didn't know was that Moji was smart and had gone to university with a scholarship. His mother, Miss Shafi, welcomed them warmly into the grand dining room for dinner. As they ate, Mr. Ford asked how long they had been dating and how they met. Luckily, Moji and Jamari had practiced their story, so they told it smoothly. Then, Mr. Ford turned to Moji and asked what she did for a living. Moji felt a small panic in her heart, but she stayed calm and smiled. "I'm a designer," she said. "I just started my own clothing brand. It's still new, but I'm working on growing it. I hope to take it worldwide one day." Mr. Ford nodded slowly. That's impressive. Keep working hard, and things will come together soon," he said. But then, he looked at Moji strangely and added, "What surprises me is why someone like you would settle for less." Moji and Jamari stared at him, confused. "Sir?" Moji asked softly. Mr. Ford looked straight at her and said, "I mean Jamari. Why would you date someone like him? He has no job, no plans, and doesn't care about anything. He hasn't worked a real day in his life." The room went silent. Moji didn't know what to say, and Jamari looked hurt and shocked. Moji held Jamari's hand tightly and looked into his eyes. Then, she turned to face Mr. Ford. "For me," she said, her voice calm but strong, "I see him for who he really is. In the months I've known him, he has been amazing. He has so much potential, even if people don't see it. I believe he can be the hardest working man. I see it in him every single day. When he's with me, he becomes the best version of himself. He loves me in ways that matter." As she spoke, she stared into Jamari's eyes. Jamari was shocked. No one had ever said such kind things about him before. His heart felt warm, and right there, he started falling in love. He smiled at Moji with so much care, and she smiled back. It was a real and soft moment between them. Mr. Ford sighed and nodded slowly. "Well, then he's just the luckiest man alive," he said. "Because that man you are talking about is not the one I see." Moji gently smiled and replied, "I believe you will see it very soon, sir." They all continued eating dinner. The mood got lighter. Miss Shafi and Moji started chatting and laughing together like old friends. Everyone loved how Moji spoke and made them laugh. Her energy was bright, and her heart was kind. Even Mr. Ford, though still strict, looked impressed. Moji's light filled the room, and for the first time, Jamari felt like maybe he could truly change, just for her. After dinner, Mr. Ford and Miss Shafi were really impressed by Moji. She spoke well, looked beautiful, and acted like a real lady. That night, Jamari and Moji drove back home together in his fancy black car. They talked softly in the car. "You did a great job today. You're a really good actress. But remember, don't fall in love," Jamari said seriously. Moji looked at him and smiled a little. "Don't worry, I won't. I'm just here for the job and to get paid," she replied. Jamari nodded, happy to hear that. When they got near her house, she stepped out of the car and said she would bring her clothes and things the next day. She waved and walked inside. But as days passed, something strange started to happen. Jamari and Moji got closer. They laughed more, talked more, and spent more time together. Jamari felt something in his heart, but he was too scared to call it love. He just knew he liked being around her. At the same time, Mr. Ford started calling Jamari often. They talked like father and son again. Jamari even started going to work every day and stopped being lazy. He was changing, becoming a better man. And deep inside, he knew it was all because of Moji. She helped him grow. He even told her, "Thank you," one day. For the first time, Jamari saw life in a new way. And for the first time, his father was proud of him. Jamari had a big secret that only his best friend, Jay, knew. One evening, he was relaxing in his bedroom after a hot shower. He wore only a towel wrapped around his waist, his chest bare, and water still glistening on his skin. Just then, Moji burst into the room without knocking. She had something to say, but the moment she saw him, her words got stuck. Her eyes widened, and she just stood there. Jamari looked like a movie star. His strong chest, flat abs, and powerful arms made her heart skip a beat. She was frozen, admiring him, and wanted so badly to touch him, just once. Jamari noticed her stare, and he felt the tension too. Everything around them felt slow, like time had stopped. Jamari walked slowly toward Moji, his eyes locked on hers. When he reached her, he gently took one of her hands and placed it on his chest. She could feel his heartbeat racing, and her own heart started pounding too. The air between them felt hot and heavy. For a moment, it felt like they were about to kiss. But suddenly, Moji pulled her hand back and stepped away. "I came to tell you that my mom is better now," she said quickly, trying to sound calm. "She'll be back to work in 2 days, and I'll be leaving. I just wanted to remind you about my payment before I go." Jamari blinked in shock. "What? So to you, it's just about the money now?" Jamari said. "I thought you said falling in love wasn't an option." "What changed?" she asked. Jamari didn't answer. She then gave him a sharp look and walked to the door. Just as she opened it to leave, Jamari grabbed her hand and pulled her back. He pinned her gently against the wall, placing one hand next to her head while moving in close. Their faces were just inches apart. "If you're not in love," he whispered, "why is your heart beating so fast?" "I can feel it." Moji stared at him, her lips slightly shaking. She wanted to kiss him, but she remembered her own words. "It's not an option," she whispered back. "Just like you said, remember?" Jamari's smile faded. He stepped back slowly, looking hurt. Moji turned, opened the door, and left quickly, locking it behind her with tears welling in her eyes. Moji stood behind the door, breathing fast. Her hand was on her chest, and her heart was beating so loud. "That was too close," she whispered to herself. But just as she was about to walk away, she heard something fall inside Jamari's room. Her eyes widened in fear. She quickly opened the door and ran back in. There on the floor was Jamari, unconscious. "Jamari!" she screamed. She ran to him, shaking him, but he didn't move. Without wasting time, she called Jay, Jamari's best friend. Jay rushed over, picked Jamari up, and drove him straight to the hospital. The doctor said Jamari's kidneys were failing because of all the drinking, something only Jay knew about before. Now the sickness had gotten worse, and Jamari needed a kidney transplant. Jay felt scared, but knew it was time to tell the truth to Jamari's family. A few hours later, Jamari was allowed to go home with a bag of medicines. Jay drove him back, and when they got to the house, Moji ran out to meet them. Her face looked so worried. She helped Jamari inside and gently placed him on the soft white couch in the living room. "Oh my God, you scared me." "What did the doctor say?" she asked, holding his hand tightly. Jamari smiled a little and tried not to show his pain. "It's nothing serious," he lied. "The doctor said I have a strong infection, but I'm on medicine now. I'll be fine soon." Moji took a deep breath of relief and sat beside him. She didn't know the real truth, but Jay did, and the clock was ticking. Since the day Jamari fainted, Moji started seeing life in a new way. She didn't want to waste time being angry or hiding feelings. She and Jamari became very close. They laughed together, talked for hours, and even missed each other when they were apart. Soon, Miss Ella returned to work, but Moji still came around to see Jamari all the time. One day, Jamari followed her to her small design shop. It wasn't big or fancy, but he was so proud of her. When he saw how hard she worked, he decided to help. He offered to be a partner in her business. With his money, they bought sewing machines, fabrics, and other tools. Moji was so thankful she hugged him tightly and almost cried. Later that night, back at Jamari's big, shiny house, they stood in the middle of the beautiful living room with gold and white furniture. Jamari held Moji's hands and looked deep into her eyes. "Moji, you're smart, strong, and beautiful," he said. "You changed me. You made me better. I love you. Will you be my girlfriend?" Moji blushed and smiled. "But you once said my name was stupid," she said, teasing him. "Come on, I was being silly," he replied, laughing. "Well, I would love that," she said softly. "Is that a yes?" Jamari asked again, his heart racing. "Yes," she answered. Jamari was so happy that he pulled her close and kissed her. It was full of love and magic, the kind of kiss you don't forget. Miss Ella walked out from the kitchen and froze when she saw Jamari and Moji kissing. Her eyes widened in shock. She had always seen Jamari as proud and full of himself, and she never wanted someone like that near her daughter. Without saying a single word, she walked straight to Moji, grabbed her hand, and pulled her away. Moji looked back at Jamari with sad eyes, but she followed her mom. After they left, Jamari sat down slowly. The pain in his body was getting worse. He took his medicine quietly and went to bed. Even though he was sick, he never showed Moji. He wanted her to see him strong and didn't want her to worry or leave him. The next morning, Jamari wore a clean outfit and went to see his parents. He knew he couldn't keep his sickness a secret anymore. When he told them about his kidney problem, his mother gasped and covered her mouth, while his father, Mr. Ford, looked like his heart was breaking. For the first time, Jamari saw his father cry. Mr. Ford said they needed to act fast. They all drove straight to the hospital and sat with the doctor. After some tests, the doctor said Jamari would need a kidney transplant soon. The family agreed to start the search for a donor and begin the surgery process right away. It was a scary time, but Jamari finally felt he wasn't alone. A few weeks passed, and the hospital still couldn't find a kidney donor for Jamari. His health kept getting worse every day, but he didn't want Moji to worry. So he smiled, laughed, and acted like everything was okay, even when it wasn't. Meanwhile, Miss Ella, Moji's mom, had now started to believe that Jamari truly loved her daughter. She allowed Moji to spend more time at Jamari's house, even sleep over sometimes. One evening, Moji was in the kitchen, happily making dinner. Jamari was upstairs in the bathroom. When she finished cooking, she called out, "Babe, dinner is ready." But no answer came. Upstairs, Jamari was holding his stomach in pain, sweating and groaning. He swallowed his medicine quickly and leaned against the wall, breathing hard. When he heard Moji coming, he wiped his face, stood tall, and smiled like nothing was wrong. Moji walked into the room, and before she could ask anything, Jamari pulled her close and hugged her by the waist. Their eyes met, and they kissed. It was soft, deep, and full of unspoken feelings. One kiss turned into more, and before they knew it, they were cuddling in bed, holding each other tight. "Babe," Jamari whispered, "if our baby is a girl, name her Jamarina or Marina. If it's a boy, call him Jamari Jr." Moji laughed. "Why do all the names sound like yours?" she asked, smiling. "Why do you sound like you won't be there to name them yourself? Are you dying or something?" she joked, nudging him gently. Jamari smiled but didn't answer right away. Then he said softly, "I just think those names are pretty, and maybe I'm dying." Moji's smile faded, her heart skipped. "What?" she said, looking at him with fear in her eyes. But Jamari quickly changed his tone and laughed it off. "Come on, babe. I'm joking. Look at me. I'm too handsome to die," he said with a wink. Moji giggled nervously and hugged him tight. She didn't know the truth. Jamari was really scared, and he felt like his time was running out. But he hid the pain with jokes, just to protect the girl he loved. Jamari and Moji visited his parents and sat in the living room, having a nice time before dinner. After a while, Moji stood up and said she wanted to use the bathroom, but she didn't know where it was. Jamari offered to take her. As he walked back alone, his body suddenly felt weak. He couldn't move his legs properly. The pain was too much. He lost balance on the stairs and stumbled. Mr. Ford and Miss Shaffy saw him falling and ran quickly to help. They held him and slowly took him to the couch while he groaned in pain. Just then, Moji came back and saw everyone panicking. Her heart dropped. She rushed to Jamari, her face filled with fear. "What's going on? What's happening to him?" she asked loudly. Mr. Ford was calling the hospital, while Miss Shaffy looked at Jamari with tears in her eyes. "He didn't tell you?" she asked. Jamari shook his head slowly. "Tell me what?" Moji shouted. Miss Shaffy said gently, "Jamari needs surgery. His kidney has failed, and we haven't found a donor yet." Moji froze, then her body started shaking. "What? What are you saying? His kidneys? Failing? Why didn't you tell me, Jamari? Why didn't you say something?" she cried, kneeling beside him. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Miss Shaffy pulled her into a hug to comfort her, and together they rushed Jamari to the hospital, praying he would survive. A few days later, things were getting worse for Jamari. His kidneys were failing fast, and still, no donor had been found. His father, Mr. Ford, went to speak with the doctor to find out how much time Jamari had left. The doctor looked serious and said, He needs to be taken out of the country for surgery as soon as possible, or he won't make it. Mr. Ford and the family tried to book a flight immediately, but the earliest flight was 3 days away. Sadly, Jamari didn't have that kind of time anymore. Mr. Ford went to his hospital room. His heart broke seeing his son lying there, weak and helpless. He sat down beside him and held his hand. "Dad, I'm so sorry," Jamari whispered. "I made you hate me." Mr. Ford's eyes filled with tears. "No, son. I never hated you. I need you to forgive me too. You look so much like your mother. Every time I looked at you, I saw her and it hurt. I'm sorry." Jamari smiled faintly. "It's okay, Dad. I love you, son. I love you too, Dad." They hugged each other tightly, tears streaming down both their faces. "Promise me you'll fight," Mr. Ford said, "so we can still have more time together." A few minutes later, Mr. Ford walked straight to the doctor's office with a bold decision. "Test my kidneys," he said. "I want to give one to my son." The doctor looked at him, shocked. "But sir, you're old. If you go through this surgery, you may not survive for long. And we don't even know if your kidneys are strong enough." Mr. Ford looked the doctor in the eyes. "I don't care what happens to me. Just test me. My son needs to live." The doctor saw how serious he was and finally agreed to run the tests. Mr. Ford walked out of the room, holding on to hope with every breath. The doctor called Mr. Ford into his office and told him that his kidneys were strong and healthy. Mr. Ford smiled with relief and told the doctor to get everything ready for the surgery that same day. But he gave one condition. Nobody should know that he was the donor until the last minute. He wanted to do this quietly. While this was happening, Moji had just found out that she was pregnant. She didn't know if it was the right time to tell Jamari, but she wanted him to have something to smile about. She walked into the hospital room, sat on the couch near Jamari's bed, and held his hand gently. "Babe, I have good news," she said softly. Jamari turned to her, weak but smiling. "Tell me," he replied. Moji placed his hand on her belly and said, "You're going to be a dad." Jamari's eyes lit up with joy. He couldn't move much because of the pain, but the tears of happiness that rolled down his cheeks said everything. Just then the doctor, Mr. Ford, and Miss Shaffy walked into the room and announced more good news. "We found a donor," the doctor said. Everyone smiled and clapped, overjoyed. The surgery was scheduled for that evening, and hope filled the room once again. That evening, everything was ready for the surgery. The doctors took Mr. Ford and Jamari into the operation room. Moji and Shaffy waited outside, worried but hopeful. After a few hours, the doctor came out smiling. "The surgery was a success," he said. Moji and Shaffy jumped up with joy. But the doctor also said something sad. Mr. Ford might have to use a wheelchair for the rest of his life. "Jamari will walk again and go back to work in a few months," the doctor added. They were both going to be fine, and that was the best news of all. A few days later, both Jamari and Mr. Ford left the hospital and went home. Their recovery journey started. Mr. Ford now used a wheelchair every day, but he was happy and proud. His son was doing well, and for the first time, he saw the man Jamari had become. Shaffy never left his side. She helped him, laughed with him, and gave him all the love he needed. The house felt warm and full of peace again. Jamari also got better day by day. His love for Moji grew stronger. Her pregnancy made him even more excited for the future. Months later, Moji gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Jamari was the happiest man alive. He held his baby in his arms with tears in his eyes. At work, he stepped up as the junior CEO and was doing a great job. The company was growing, and so was his family. Life had given him another chance, and this time, he didn't want to waste it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story. Kindly subscribe, like, comment, and share my video with your loved ones. Turn on your notification bell to always be informed whenever I post another interesting video like this one. Until next time, take care.